As I was getting ready for today, and I thought, well, it's Mother's Day. I already knew that we wanted to do Jesus washing the disciples' feet today. And you know what? There's really no better story, no better documentation to reveal the heart of a servant than John chapter 13, where Jesus is washing the disciples' feet. One of the things about mothers, when you think about the display of the heart of Christ, what it looks like. I know that Mother's Day can be a very difficult day for some. It can be bittersweet. We suffered with infertility for the first 7 years of our marriage, and so Mother's Day was always kind of Then I remember my mother not wanting to go to church, dreading church on Mother's Day because she always cried. It made her think of her mother and her grandmother, two very special ladies in her life, and others. So it can be it can be bittersweet. So being mindful of that, I want you ladies to know that all of you that serve in such capacities. I've seen mothers who love their children so much that they could not take care of them, and they handed them off to a stranger to become their child. What a wonderful love that is. I've seen mothers who not only marry a man, but marries a man that has children, and they come in and say, I will mother these children, I will love them, I will give them of myself. And then mothers that take children that they didn't give birth to, and then mothers that have raised children from the womb that they have held, and they love them, and maybe they rebel, and they might hurt sometimes, and sometimes we can take it for granted, and the mothers just keep on, keeping on. There's a song yesterday on New Country, just for me. But with 96.9, with the legends, we'll listen to that a lot of times. Well, they were playing Mama songs yesterday. They played a song I'd never heard, it's this little boy comes to his mama, and he hands her a bill, basically, and says, she says, what's this? When I cut the lawn, $5. When I watched my little brother while you went shopping, 25 cents. Kids' rates were a lot lower than my kids, right? So that's inflation. But anyway, he's just given all these charges of how much it would come to $14.75 that Mama owed him for all the stuff he had done around the house. So the mom took the paper, and on the back of it she wrote, for the 9 months I carried you, no charge. For all of the nights that you were sick and I sat up with you, no charge. For all the kisses on the boo-boos and all, she just laid out all the meals, all this stuff, no charge. And she's handed it back to him and said that real love doesn't count the cost. It doesn't come with a price tag, basically. I never heard that song before. Didn't recognize the name of the artist that sang it. And I thought, man, if that don't line up with the heart of Jesus, if we don't see the heart of Jesus demonstrated in motherhood, then I don't know where we see it. And that's not a foreshadowing. Everybody always says mothers get lifted up on Mother's Day and dads get beat up on Father's Day. We really try hard not to do that. But we see that what the mothers give with no expectation of anything in return. We told a story this week I had forgotten about that we started talking years ago when we didn't have any children and we wanted children. That had actually become an idol for us. Every thought we had was consumed with, we want a baby, spending a fortune in infertility treatments and all this other stuff. I mean, it was on every thought. And it had become an idol. And an idol is anything that you put before God, and we had put that before God. And but we were working with troubled youth, and they would come to the house, and April she'd make meals for them. She was making a cake one time, and they're like, "Whose birthday is it?" The ones that were there, and it was, no, it's just making a cake. Just because, and she mothered them. And I don't mean to embarrass you. I just need to tell this story. But they loved her. They hugged her. And one day, this one kid. And he had made a plaque that said, David and Rachel. And so he made a heart-shaped plaque. He had put it in a router. He had engraved the names in it. He had shellacked it. I mean, it was good. He was so proud. And I was there right there, okay? They loved April, right? So anyway, he couldn't wait. Now, I saw it when he said, look what I made for you and Miss Rachel. Who is Rachel? I didn't ask him that. I didn't ask. I left it alone.
Wow.
And I'm thinking, not sure what's going to happen. I knew what was going to happen. We handed it to her. He gets home, he runs up, he hugs her. Says, I made you this. And it says, David and Rachel. And, well, I work with a friend of mine called Chopper, who to this day still calls her Rachel. I mean, to this day, and he laughs about that. They even asked me, how's Rachel? And anyway, she hugged him, and she just squeezed him, told him how much she loved him and everything. And that's what mothers do. And that's so for all you mothers, whether you have ever had a biological child, whether you have share your last name, for all of you ladies that invest in those around you, thank you for demonstrating the heart of Christ. Thank you for what you do. I want you to go to John chapter 13. There it is. All right. Now, before the feast of the Passover, when Jesus knew that his hour had come, and that he should depart from this world to the Father, having loved his own who were in the world, he loved them to the end, just like a mama does. And supper being ended, the devil having already put into the heart of Judas Iscariot, Simon's son, to betray him, Jesus, knowing that the Father had given all things into his hands, and that he had come from God and was going to God, rose from supper and laid aside his garments, took a towel and girded himself. After that, he poured water into a basin and began to wash the disciples' feet and to wipe them with the towel which he was girded. Now, you've got to understand this, because this would have been the task that the newest servant, the low guy on the totem pole, this would have been his job. This ain't pull off your Justins and let me wash off your feet. This is Jerusalem. You're walking around with sandals on. Your feet are nasty. There's dust on. I mean, it's just horrible. I mean, this was not a job you'd want to do. And Jesus, being Jesus, could have said to anyone in the room, you get ready to wash everybody's feet, and you would have considered it a privilege that Jesus, the Master, would have said, I want you to do this task in my name, and we'd have been happy to do it. But Jesus, being Jesus, like the good leader that he is never does anything without, he's never asked us to do anything that he himself hasn't done. So Jesus gets up and girds himself to do the nastiest job in the room. To serve those that he loves by washing their feet. Many times we will get to the point that we think, if we're not careful, certain things are beyond us. That's a task that is below me. That's something I wouldn't do. That's somebody maybe this person should do or this person should do, but I'm much here on this higher plane. I should be operating. Right? And we can convince ourselves that, but Jesus tells us he's doing this for an example. So when we come to the point of service, look, many of you kids are alive simply because of women. Right? Look, there are certain situations in my household, a door slam, a bump in the night or something like that. I'm up, I'm alert, I'm on it, I'm ready. A kid screaming in the middle of the night, Daddy, I don't feel good. You have just wasted your breath. Okay, I've heard nothing. My wife needed to go to the hospital one time when we first got married. I, to this day, don't remember. Okay? They're not living. Is calling out. I don't even know what happened. April goes and gets her. Here's her calling Daddy. I don't know to this day if this happens or not, but I trust her, so I think it did. So anyway, I'm late. She goes and gets Libby, brings Libby to the bathroom, gets her cleaned up, puts her back to bed. She gets into bed. The only thing I know about it is the story. I have no idea. So you ladies, you just keep going. Y'all are remarkable. And it is amazing as you give this service. And Jesus saying there is nothing below me. And he gets up to serve, the very one who could have said, I won't do this. And he gets up to serve, and he comes to Peter, and Peter said to him, Lord, you're washing my feet. Peter realizes how awkward this should be. Now, one of the things that we often do is take our mothers for granted. We often become that we just expect they're gonna cook. Laundry, well, it's magic. I throw it in the magic box, unless you're my kids, I throw it in the magic floor in my room, and miraculously it gets clean and ends up back in my room again. It's like magic. I don't know how it happens. Well, the thing about it is we often take them for granted, and when the meals that are cooked and the times that are set up, and the whole heaven help us with the homework, I'm useless when it comes to homework. I have kids in 6th grade that are doing math that I don't understand. It's stupid. And Michael, when he was in public school, he's like, I said, Michael, this is dumb. The answer is this. And he goes, I understand that's the answer, but you have to get there this way. I said, that's stupid. That's extra steps. If you work for me, I'd fire you. And it's just wasting time. Anyway, so April's like, just stop. I got this. So thank God for mamas, right? So they're teaching and they're helping and they're putting all this headaches on themselves. Many, after already doing a hard day's work on themselves, themselves and their jobs, and coming home and taking care of the house and then staying up to who knows when with this homework and all this other stuff. We thank you. So Peter sees how odd this is, that the God of all creation is coming to wash his feet. And Jesus answered and said to him, what I am doing you do not understand now, but you will know after this. Peter said to him, you shall never wash my feet. Now, daddies, we are often the ones who this is the line that's got to be reached. The line is reached, this dictates this action, we jump, boom. I was probably 8 or 9 years old, living at 246 Bracewell Street. On a Saturday morning, there was a World War II movie called The Glorious. You know what it is. And it wasn't the new one, it's the old one. And this came on TV. I'm sitting there and I'm saying the title over and over again. Glorious, glorious, glorious. My daddy comes around the corner, grabs me, never says a word, commences to wear my tail out. Right there, I'm getting my butt behind beat. Mama come in there and said, David! Called my dad by name. And Daddy says, do you know what he said? And Daddy tells her what he said. And Mama says, David, do you think he knows what that means? And Daddy said, no, probably not. No. But the wisdom of a mother, the patience and the encouraging direction of a mother, she could have been quicker about it. Comes in and has this piece about it, about gathering this info that we men don't always do. So I'm very thankful for that. So Peter, he's like, wait a minute, you're not going to wash my feet. And Jesus answered, if I do not wash your feet, you have no part with me. Well, Simon Peter says to him, Lord, not my feet only, but also my hands and my head. And this is some of my children's favorite verse, verse 10. Jesus said to him, he who is bathed needs only to wash his feet, but is completely clean, and you are clean, but not all of you. Now we have to explain to my children this is metaphorical. So when you go to take a bath, you do need to wash more than just your feet. This is head to toe. You need to take a bath. So you can't just say, but Jesus said, I wash my feet, I'm good. This is talking about when Jesus is washing, you are cleansed. Okay, Jesus has cleansed you. Well, Peter goes on and says, Lord, not my feet only, but also my hands and my head. And verse 11 says, for he who knew, he was bathed only to wash his feet, but is completely clean, and you are clean, but not all of you. For he knew who would betray him. Therefore he said, you are not all clean. So when he had washed their feet, taken his garments and sat down again, he said to them, now before I move on, I want to point out something. There is nothing in the scripture to make us think that Jesus did not also physically wash Judas's feet. I cannot tell you the mothers that I have been with who have children, grown and young, that are breaking their hearts by some of the things that they have done. And the mothers still do for them. With a love that far exceeds any other known phenomenon. I mean, when you see that continued love, that continued, and they'll direct you, they'll love you, they'll correct you. But they still love you. You never doubt that. And then some of you may have been grown up in horrible situations. I understand that not every mother is there. But it's few and far between that it's not. Now, one of the things somebody pointed out in our society today, as we get farther and farther away from the actual gospel of the Lord, that we now live in a generation to where things that fathers were doing 20 and 40 years ago, we're starting to see mothers do. It used to be a very rare occasion to see a mother walk out on their children. Now, fathers, we've seen that we've always said, well, so-and-so left such and such, she's raising kids alone. And I'm not saying it hasn't happened, don't get me wrong. I'm just saying we're seeing it more on it's becoming more common than it used to be. So we need to be very mindful of that. But so we see the continuation. You see the heart of Jesus, where Jesus is loving and He is protecting you, and He is, and many times, protecting us from ourselves. We see that demonstrated also in the lives of a mother, where we see one that stepped out and said, my child is in prison, my child is a drug addict, my child is an alcoholic, my child is this, and I love them. My child is in rebellion against Jesus Christ, but I lift them up and I'm praying for them, and I'm praying that they come to salvation. It has been said that the death of a mother is the first heartbreak that you'll go through without her. Because regardless of what hurts you, she feels it too. And we see that as mothers continue to give and minister at great expense unto themselves. Now Jesus, when He had washed their feet, in verse 12, had taken His garment, He sat down again. He said to them, do you know what I have done to you? You call me teacher and Lord, and you say, well, for so I am. If I then, your Lord and teacher, have washed your feet, you also ought to wash one another's feet. For I have given you an example that you should do as I have done to you. We ought to serve one another. And we ought to, Jesus could have said, let's think about if Jesus had the same mindset that you and I have a lot of times. What if Jesus would have been like David Bracewell and said, man, their feet are dirty. Somebody ought to wash them. What if he'd have said, I got this crucifixion thing coming up. Man, I'm kind of stressed out. And their feet are dirty. Probably on a better day, if I was up to it, if I wasn't facing all this stress in my own life, I would wash their feet. Or what if Jesus looked at them and said, Peter's sitting over there. He can obviously see their feet are dirty. Why didn't he wash their feet? You might have your own option. Maybe you'd have been the one that would have jumped up and said, hey guys, let me wash your feet. Some of us don't go there immediately. Well, so Jesus there and said he knows his place, he knows his position, he's got his own things that he is headed to the cross, he knows that this is his last Passover with those that he loves, he knows that the one that is going to betray him is in the room, he knows all these things, and Jesus looks around and says, let me serve you. I want to tell you, sometimes there is no greater way to worship than by serving others. Sometimes when you are carrying your own weight and your own pains, and then you are bogged down by them, that you see the opportunity to step up and to reach somebody else and to minister to them, God in turn lifts you up as you have been the hands and the feet of Jesus by following the heart of Jesus in the life that you lead. And you say, but I'm tired, I'm stressed, I'm this, I'm that. And you say, here's an opportunity. I want to be Jesus to me. I thought it was fitting because Brandon knows I don't have to use a calendar. It happens all the time. And if there's I cannot tell you over the years, we went back and looked at my phone where I've sent a text to the men and said, hey guys, Sunday we're going to do this. You probably can always go back. I don't know if it's something in me, subliminal, I don't know. But you can almost always go back and go, hey David, that's Father's Day, that's Mother's Day, that's this day, that's this, and that's... So, but this morning I thought it was fitting that on Mother's Day we had deacons' wives training for our deacons that are in deacon training. and listening to the service of their heart. And Johnny Hunt had a thing that said, he's talking about how important the wives are to the ministry of the husband. And he said, if you see a turtle on a post, you can know he didn't get there by himself. And so he said, he was telling the deacons, he said, so deacons, if you're up on a post, you know your wife is the one that put you there. They got you there, right? So because of the investment and the love that we see, the heart of Jesus coming through it. He says you ought to serve one another. We ought to do what he has done. And most assuredly I say to you, a servant is not greater than his master. You ever get to, somebody said that if service is beneath you, then leadership is beyond you. There are companies who are not Christian companies who actually study the leadership style of Jesus because you just can't get past how effective the servant leadership of Christ is. We went to a law enforcement class, I think it was in Tampa one time. They actually referenced the leadership of Jesus. I thought, wow, that's pretty cool. So when you look at Christ and need to remind ourselves, a servant's not greater than his master, nor is he who is sent greater than he who sent him. If you know these things, blessed are you if you do them. Now look at James chapter 2, verse 14. What does it profit, my brethren, if someone says he has faith but does not have works? Can faith save him? If a brother or a sister is naked and destitute of daily food, and one of you says to him, depart in peace, be warmed and filled, but you do not give the things which are needed for the body, what does it profit? Thus also faith by itself, if it does not have works, is dead. But someone will say, you have faith and I have works. Show me your faith without your works, and I will show you my faith by my works. So if it's not just saying it, it's doing it. And one of the things about mothers is we don't often realize what all they have done until we grow up. I think it was Mark Twain that said he was amazed at how wise his father had become in just a couple of short years after he moved out of the house. He was just amazed by the wisdom of his father and how wise he becomes in such a short time. Many times we think, Mom, that's your job. Well, who's going to take care of it? Mom will. Mom will take care of this. She does that. We take it for granted. And not realizing until that time when you become the parent and you start doing these things yourself, or you go to college and all of a sudden a magic box in your dorm room doesn't work anymore, and you got to go wash the clothes yourself. What in the world? Groceries, they don't just appear in the pantry. You got to go get them. And these meals at the restaurants and stuff, they want money for them. Well, who would have thunk it, right? So you start, we don't realize this stuff until we get in that position and we have to call and say, thank you. And it's often a thank you that comes, and they don't, the thing about it is, they don't expect it. They sure love to hear it. And they appreciate it. But sometimes it's too late, if we don't seize those opportunities. I called my dad one time. It's not Father's Day, but I'll tell you the story. I took my kids to Chuck E. Cheese. I called my dad and I said, Dad, I just want to tell you I'm sorry. He said, for what? I said, I gave the kids an option of where they wanted to go eat. I told them they could pick anywhere they wanted to go. And they picked Chuck E. Cheese. I said, Dad, this is the worst tasting, overpriced pizza that I've ever had in my life. The games are terrible. The drink cups are that size. I said, Daddy, I'm sorry. He just started laughing. He said, did y'all have fun? I said, I did. He said, all right, but I had to tell him, it took that long in my life before I realized the suffering I put my parents through. Right? So, anyway, so you need to look around and make sure when we have those opportunities, tell them thank you and be servants. You're probably not going to see more people who demonstrate what it means to be a servant than some of the ladies in your life who, yes, correct you when you're wrong and you don't like it and you won't appreciate it until you're older. Right now, I don't think you stop saying that stuff. They don't even know what they're talking about. They're aggravating and it's, oh my goodness, if I hear that one more time, and then there'll come a day when you're like, thank you. And so, mamas, keep on doing what you do. Keep on loving the way you love. Keep on demonstrating the heart of Christ. He goes on, and let's flip over to verse 31. So this is after he had told Judas, whatever you're going to do it quickly. And so Judas leaves, and he says, so when he had gone out, Jesus said, now the Son of Man is glorified, and God is glorified in him. If God is glorified in him, God will also glorify him in himself, and glorify him immediately. Little children, I shall be with you a little while longer. You will seek me. And as I said to the Jews, where I'm going, you cannot come. So now I say to you, a new commandment I give to you, that you love one another as I have loved you, that you also love one another. By this, all will know that you are my disciples, if you have love for one another. When we see an unconditional love demonstrated, and we see that in mothers, we see that in ladies that are operating in a motherly position, we should see it throughout the church. It should be in such a way that the way that we love one another tells others that we are disciples of Christ by the way that we selfishly minister and lift up one another. We ought to have that legacy. You're never, it's 2 Timothy, I believe it's chapter 2, about chapter 3. It even talks about not quarreling, not getting into ridiculous disputes and all this other stuff, but being gentle and able to teach and patient. It's the love as we come and we speak and demonstrate the love of Christ that people say there's something to that. That ain't the way Satan wants you to do it. I don't know of any other area that's demonstrated except better in the lives of our ladies. Thank you for what you do. Thank you for the love that you share. Thank you for demonstrating the heart of Christ. There's so many mamas. St. Augustine, we call him St. Augustine today. Dude was a rambler, a womanizer, a drug addict, an alcoholic. Man, his mama prayed for him. His mama prayed for him. His mama loved Jesus so much, and she told him, she said, Augustine, she said, you need to repent and believe the gospel of Jesus, that there will come a day if you leave this world without believing upon Jesus, well, I will have to stand in approval at God's judgment of my own son because of the glory of my great God. And she prayed for him, and she prayed for him, and he got saved. And now, today, if you go type in St. Augustine, not the place down in South Florida, but the teacher, I believe, was John Calvin, and he just one that did so much for the furtherance of the gospel of Jesus. We know him as a great theologian, and he was a terrible man. And his mama lifted him up in prayer. And I can tell you, as I have sat with ladies who were getting ready to graduate this earth, and the number one thing, and I would hear many of them say, is pray for my, and they tell you their name. Pray for my child. When I would play hooky from school, I would pretend I was sick. You can only hold the thermometer to the light bulb for so long, or otherwise Mom's gonna know you're lying, right? So Mom one time was like, "Oh, so you have a fever of 120? Okay, we're going to the ER right now. Hang on a minute." Anyway, I remember in the living room watching The Price is Right, because you're not allowed to run around and play. I hated school, man. Oh my goodness, I hated it. But you lay there and you have to be sick at least till it was after lunchtime, but then it was too late for Mom to take you to school. So you had a system. You had to maintain it. I'm not making this up. Anyway, so later watching The Price is Right, well, Mama would pray out loud. And I remember Mama being in her bedroom praying, God, help this boy. Lord, make this boy understand what it means to do right, and that his actions affect those around him. And at that moment, I'm thinking, why didn't I go to school today? Right? Because, I mean, not just conviction, but Mama didn't just talk the way Mama prayed. It was different. Okay? Kind of scary a little bit, right? And, but I remember those. And the things that I had a friend that growing up that I was whining, griping, complaining one time because my mama told me no, Daddy told me no about something I wanted to go somewhere, And I had a buddy that his mom and dad were divorced, and he told me, he said, "Would you just shut up?" He said, "I wish somebody loved me enough to tell me no." He said, "If my mom buys me something for $50, my dad buys me something for $100. And he said, "Nobody cares what I do." He said, "The only spanking I've ever got is from your mom." And I'm sitting there at the time not grasping. He means this in a good way, right? So, I mean, in a bad way, what he's talking about, but the spanking was a good thing. Because I'm like, dude, I get plenty, and we share this. But he was telling me, your mom and dad, they tell you no. They don't care if you go to bed not happy with what they said. Because it's not their job to do it. Their job is to love you and train you. And he just kind of helped me realize he wasn't putting it that eloquent, but what he's putting into the places that they love me enough to say no. And I thought, man, I'm not talking to you anymore, right? And but looking back now, it makes perfect sense. And I love saying shirt one time said, "I'm not your friend, I'm your parent." Okay? And mamas, thank y'all for taking that on yourselves that when you do the right thing and it causes us to act out toward you, you're the one that cries into your pillow at night wishing we didn't feel that way, but knowing you did the right thing. And we see that with Jesus, where Jesus loved us enough to say you're wrong. He loved us enough to say you're almost there. And he loved us enough to say you're doing fine. And I love it when he tells Peter, after he's restored Peter in the last chapter of John, and Peter's been restored, and he's walking in a right standing with Jesus, and John's following, and Peter's like, "What about him?" And Jesus said, "What is it to you if he remains till I come? You follow me." So basically saying, Peter, would you quit worrying about everybody else and follow me? And Jesus loves us enough to correct us just like our moms did. So if you want to see the heart of Jesus demonstrate, if you want to see it, put in the prettiest picture, man, you just look at them all. You just look at the ladies that serve, and you see the heart of Christ. And we want to say, thank you.